So we today is day one, so I'll go over the types of the test. Okay, so do you guys know a little bit about IELTS, or are you new to IELTS?
Yes, I'm new to IELTS, miss.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so we will go over step by step here. So we have in speaking. Okay, I'll tell you something. Compared to any other test, IELTS speaking is the easiest I can say, or Duolingo will be easier as well. But when you compare it to TOEFL, IELTS is way easier than TOEFL. So that's why, you can have courage for that, like, okay, this is easier, so let's go for it. So in this speaking test, we have three parts, okay? The first part and the second part and the third part. So in part one, you will have the interview type of thing. So you have 4 to 5 minutes here. Okay, so the questions will be up to the questions will be around 12 up to 12 questions. That will be that will depend on you as well. If you talk some time for one question, then you might not get 12 questions, but don't worry about it. It doesn't matter how much questions you get. Just if you keep on answering in a great way, that will be fine. Okay. So in this part one, you have the personal interest kind of questions, like what do you like, or like easy questions. You can just answer it very shortly, and mostly about family, and mostly about work, or are you being a student right now, or are you working, kind of thing, just to know you better here, just like easy questions. Then in this part, I suggest that you answer 3-4 sentences, or even one sentence is fine too. If you don't really have anything to elaborate, to add on, then it's still fine. That you answer shortly. Okay, so this part of the test, part one, is the easiest one, the shortest one here. Okay, so in part two, it's a talk. You will have a cue card, written down the question there. So the question will be like, who is your favorite person, maybe, and then there are some prompts given for three or four prompts there, who that person is, what that person is like, when did you guys meet, or like why you still remember that person, or something like that, that they want you to talk about. There are some prompts, so you have to include all the prompts in that test, and when you get that card, that flash card, or that cue card kind of thing, you have 1 minute to prepare to talk. So at that 1 minute, you do some taking notes, but 1 minute is 1 minute is just too short. So you have to be mindful of what kind of words you are going to written down. So in this case, you just need to put it down like one or two words or main ideas that you want to say when you go through all the prompts when you're talking. So for that, you just got 1 minute to prepare. Okay, so I put it here, 1 minute prep time, and then after that you have 2 minutes to talk. At that time, you can at least talk about 1 minute, around about 1 minute. That is at least that you should talk, but I suggest you talk 2 full minutes. So for that, we will have daily challenges, and for that, you practice every day. And I hope that you will get improved if you're having trouble with speaking. Okay, so that is for 2 minutes. Okay, so altogether you have like 1 minute to prepare, 2 minutes to talk, which is 3 minutes, and in transition time you have another 1 minute. So in this part you will have 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, you will be taking some around 3 to 4 minutes. So do you understand so far till part 2? If you have any question, shoot away.
No question for me, teacher.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks for answering. Okay, we'll move on to part 3 now. So part 3 seems to be the difficult part of the test, which will be including about world issues or abstract questions there. So for example, what's happening, current issues, around the world, or maybe something that is from in the future, what will happen in the future. You have to guess, or like you have to make your own opinion for that. So those kind of things, something that you can't see it right now, but you are going to make it give some ideas what will happen next or something like that. So that's why I put it here, world issues or abstract. So in this section, you will have 5 to 6 questions, and in here you have to discuss the topic in more details. Okay, so in this case, the questions will look like from part 1. Okay, so that will be like part 1, but then you have to remember when you're in part 3, you have to say lots of things. Even if the question is asking about yes or no, you don't stop there. Yes, I do. And then you don't stop there, okay? Then you make something more interesting, or like, you think that is interesting, you say it, all the things, facts by facts. So those kind of things, make sure that part 3 and part 1 is different. Part 3, you have to say it more in detail with examples and all that. Okay, so that's for speaking part 1, 2, and 3. So do you have any questions here?
Teacher,
Yes.
does that mean we have like 15 minutes in total for the whole section?
Exactly. Yes. So you have 1 day to take the test for speaking. You go there, take that 15 minutes, and you come back. Right, so you would be really excited and nervous at the same time. So like when we are going through a few months from now on for the speaking, we have to prepare for our mind as well. So this only 15 minutes will decide your speaking score. So control yourself or like manage your skills there inside of you, like all that preparation of your mentality and your spiritually as well. So those things will help during these months that you have been practicing. I hope that will help when you go to the actual test. Okay, so any more questions?
Teacher,
Yes.
in the part 3 session, if I don't know the answer exactly, like I don't know that kind of thing that the examiner asks me, can I tell or is it the answer might be wrong or right or wrong? If I tell the wrong answer, it might be the
Okay.
get the
Score. Okay, so in this case I suggest that you say something instead of not saying anything, or like if you don't say anything, then they can't give you points anymore. If you keep on saying, maybe they will just look at your grammar and look at some of the words that you use in it. If that sounds like good, then they can give score for that. If you're panicked and you don't answer anything, then that's the loss that you have from your side. Okay, so sometimes the question, like, it's really rare though, sometimes you don't know the question, you hear it clearly but you don't know what to answer. Don't panic. answer something. You know, you have to think about something when you get the question. You know, anything that you think is um, uh, discuss is something to discuss about, then you can just say it. Okay, so in that scenario that you were talking about, instead of like shut up and sit there, you say something. I would suggest that. Okay, all right, so shall we move on? Yeah. Okay, so we'll be having some tips here. So first thing, don't memorize the answers. I know that you won't be doing memorizing stuff, but just to remind you, don't memorize the answers. You can have a look at the sample answers, and you can practice with the sample answers, acting like you are saying all these answers. Acting like you're practicing your pronunciation and all that. You can do that, but do not memorize it. Okay. And tip number 2, don't use big and unfamiliar words. For this point, what I mentioned by this is you are in the real test, and you use the word that you don't normally use it, then it can be a problem at that time. So don't use it in the test. But for now, when we're practicing, we can use it. Okay, like, and if we use it time to time, and then we can see what the mistakes that we made, we can change it all along. But in the real test, don't try to use any new words that you haven't used when you're practicing. Okay. And tip number 3 is like use a range of grammatical structures. In this class, we won't be going so deep into grammatical structures, but you have to be aware that you're using various kind of things. So from your introductions, what I can hear is you're aiming for 7, 8 kind of scores. So it's good to use various kinds of grammar structures as well. So you'll be taking classes from other skills like reading, listening, and writing, right? So for these, when you're learning, take the grammatical structures and use it in speaking as well. So that will help. Okay. And tip number 4, don't worry about your accent. If you feel like you are not really comfortable with your accent, don't worry. They don't mind about that, as long as you pronounce the word in a right way, and in a clear way, or like in an understandable way. That's fine. Okay, so don't worry if you have any insecurity about your pronunciation, your accent. Forget about it right now. Try to have courage, and then just try to say it. Okay. And tip number 5, pause to think. You are allowed to pause to think, because even native speaker would pause in the middle of it, and just like now, well, like you can do that. But if that's too long, that's not good. So that's the case. Okay. And another one, avoid using fillers. Fillers like we would always use in the middle of it when we're thinking. We stall the time, right? So at that time we use like those kind of things. It's good to use, but if you overuse it, then it will be a problem. So you have to be mindful about when to use and not to. Sometimes the fillers would stop you from your fluency. So that's why be aware of that. It's good to use, but not too much. Okay. And tip number 7 is extend your answer, especially in speaking part 3. Okay. In speaking part 3, sometimes the questions are like so short to the point, asking, do you prefer staying in the countryside or in the city, something like that. Then you would say, okay, well, I prefer living in the city. And don't stop there. Okay. You would add on the reason, and what you think is good about it, and what you don't think is good about that. You can compare to the thing that you didn't choose, like countryside. What you think about what you think the disadvantages for countryside. You can compare and contrast those kind of things. So by that, you just see one question which is asking this or that, right? You just have to choose, but that's not it. You have to answer quite a lot there. Okay, so you have to extend your answer. And sometimes tip number 8 here, here we have smiling. If you feel like, if you're very stressed out or if you're so nervous, it's good to smile a little bit. If you can try to use that. If you feel like this is not your thing, it's okay, you don't do the smiling thing, okay? But sometimes it's a more, it become natural way that you're speaking. Just because you smile and you have some, facial expressions and all that, that will also help. So try to use that, okay? Try to be active, try to be, showing emotion through your face, right? Okay. And next one, tip number 9, don't speak in monotone. Okay. So as Dion is laughing. Okay. So all right. So monotone is like, don't speak in monotone. Something like, if I would be teaching like that, then you might fall asleep, right? So something like that. That goes the same to the examiner as well. You are making them interested, and even this is a test. You are not making it interesting, then maybe they would miss out some important stuff as well. So you're making yourself interesting, and they would get interested on you. So like use your some intonations, like I'm using it right now. We're pausing at some point, we're making higher at some point, making some emphasis, like stressing out to just make it appeal more to the audience, right? So those kind of things we should be aware of. And last but not least, tip number 10, practice common IELTS topics. So from my experience, this is very important. If you have a look at the topics and if you think ahead, you would probably be having some of the topics that you have practiced in your own time will just come up in the test, and you are like, yay, this is what I have been thought about, and that's already in your mind for like a series. Then you can just spill it out whatever you want. So that's a good thing as well. Okay, so for this slide, do you have any more any questions?
Teacher, for the last tip, practice common IELTS topics, do they usually ask randomly the same question for the part 3?
It depends, but for something like, if you're going for the topics like food or like technology or education, those kind of different points, then the question might be different, but then you have some sense that you have already thought about it in ahead when you're practicing, then that will help. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So how about others? Last time I was teaching one student, and that was my niece kind of thing. So like I was pushing him a lot that, okay, you go this topic, and every topic, I covered all topic, and in the test it comes up like food, about food. That was the last topic that I did it for him, and that came up in the test, and he was like, I thought speaking was the hardest, but speaking was the easiest at the end, so he would really be happy about it. So I was like, okay, let's go for every topic, like we should cover all the topics. So in here, every week when we meet, maybe we would be just talking about a few things in the class, but I have daily challenges. So in that daily challenges, some of of this things that you can think, like whether it's under the topic of food or under the topic of thinking or something like that, So take serious about the daily challenges as well. Okay. All right. So in speaking assessment criteria, we have fluency and cohesion. That's for 25%, which will be included talking at length, talking without pause or hesitations. So without pausing or hesitation, you have a fluency there. You would be keep talking one after another. That would be really great. Okay, so that's without pausing and hesitations. And another one, talking without self-correction. So when we know that we make a mistake, we usually do it self-correction. So when we do that self-correction, at one time you got it correct, that's not a problem. But sometimes you go and make yourself correct, but then you make a mistake again and you don't feel like this is correct, and you correct it again and again and again, and that sound more that sound weird at that point. So for that, be aware of that. And another one is you are just making other to understand what you're explaining. So that is the most important thing. So even if you're using simple words, you are talking it with fluency, then that's fine. But for higher score, like 7 or 8, you need to use specific words like advanced words, something like that. Okay, and using linking devices, this is very, very important. So something like linking devices. Not only linking devices, we have linking phrases, that you can just use it right away. We will talk about it later on. Okay, so when we talk about lexical resources, we have 25%. So in this case, we are not we will be using a range of words. Okay, and then paraphrasing. When you got the question, you just listen to it, and you just like when we did in state school, like we don't do that. Even if you want to 美工稿, you can use it your own words, own meaning, the same meaning that is that appeared in the question. So for example, it asks like what is your favorite food, and then you won't start saying like my favorite food is blah blah blah. You don't say that. Okay, well, I really like all sorts of food, especially blah blah blah, something like that. Like you don't use it exactly what it is used in the question. That's what we say it paraphrasing. Okay, and another one is using collocations, the right collocations. Okay, we don't say it like high tree or something like that. It's a tall tree, right? So something like that. Those kind of collocations, we should know that. And when we use that in a proper way, our language become natural. Okay, so that's also important. And another one is using less command vocabulary. So for fluency, if you use simple words, you can just make it like very fluent way. But in this case, lexical resources, for this 25%, you have to use beautiful vocabularies there. Okay. And then avoiding errors. This is very important in every section. Sometimes we misunderstand. We misunderstand about awesome and awful. Awesome is good, awful is bad. But sometimes people tend to mix those words, and awful, that was awful, and then like that's totally wrong, so something like that. So be aware of that. Try to avoid errors. Okay, and another one, grammar range and accuracy.